Hello, welcome to the Fish Addicts YouTube channel. I'm Corissa and today I'm going to be showing you some aquascaping tips. So when you first start aquascaping your tank, the first step is have your tank and you're going to be putting your aqua soil in. So if you're doing a aquascape tank, you're probably doing a planted tank. So you're probably starting with some good aqua soil. Some types of aqua soil you'll want to rinse, others you won't. If you're using the Fluval brand, don't rinse it. You're going to have a bit of a mess. But if you're doing something like the Secan brand Onyx sand, that's something you're definitely going to want to give a really good rinse, or you're going to have a lot of cloudiness in your tank and it's going to be kind of hard to place things. The second thing would be, I would say, is choosing how to put the soil in your tank. Most people are just going to have the bottom of their tank and put their soil just like this. What I would recommend would be sloping it towards the back, and I would do it quite steep. By pushing it to the back and pushing it to the sides and even creating some hills, you're going to create depth in your tank and it's going to be a much more visually stunning design. So if you're going to be setting up your tank, one of the things I really recommend is using focal points. So this is something that really draws your eye into your tank. So usually people use driftwood or rocks. So I would try to place them kind of not in the middle of my tank, but off to one side. Now this is called the rule of thirds. That's where you're going to want either your rock, your wood, or a big beautiful plant like an Amazon sword, or something big and fluffy like a kabamba, something that really catches your eye, or even like a red plant. If you're using a type of wood, stick with all the same wood throughout your tank. If you're using spiderwood, stay with that. If you're using ironwood, stick with that. It makes a much more cohesive look. And again, these aren't hard and fast rules. You have to like what you're looking at, so it really is up to you. These are just some points that may help your tank look a little bit more visually stunning. I would recommend rocks the same. So pick the same rocks. If you have something like ancient elephant stone, it has a lot of lines in it. So it's good to have those lines going in the same direction, whether that's horizontal or vertical or on a diagonal. So something else you can do in your tank is decide how you're going to scape it. So I like to start first, I go on my phone, I go into my notes, and I start just sketching a light sketch. Nothing defined, just a few shapes of colors of kind of how I want it to look, kind of going with a plan in mind. So then you're going to have to make sure that the rocks you pick and the wood you pick is going to fit that scale. Something else that can help add contrast and focal points to your tank is making sure that you're using foreground, midground, and background plants. So things like crypts make really good fore and midground plants. Things like Bacopa compacta are things that you can trim and make a really good either background or foreground plant depending on how you scape it. Valacinaria, water wisteria, those are all wonderful plants for big background plants. Fill in, hide those filters, those heaters, and now it's come time to actually plant your plants. I take small foreground plants like Anubias and Java ferns, like the small window-load variety in crypts, and I like to plant those in my tank first. And so then now it's come time for some of the more challenging plants to plant. So you have things like your Bacopa compacta, if you're using that as a background plant, your Valacinaria, your Sagittaria. When you get them from us, often they don't have a huge root system yet because they haven't been planted, so they have a tendency to float.
So all I'm going to do is dig a little bit of a hole, and this is going to be a nice long hole, and I put them down kind of flat like this, and then I'm going to cover them up. Holding them down with my thumb, cover that up, and then just stand them up just a little bit.
If you're going to be, if you're planting into a tank that you already have fish in, and you have things like Corissa or Plecostomus in there, I like to recommend putting some big rocks around those plants just to hold them in place while the roots develop, and then you can remove those later from the aquascape. Now this is a really important tip. In an aquascape tank, when you pour the water in your tank, it can really disrupt the soil, it can disrupt the plants. You don't want to uproot anything because that's very traumatizing to the plant's roots. So I take something like a plate, a paper towel, even an old Tupperware container, and I actually personally use a watering can because it already has a very good dispersion through the nozzle, and I just pour that over the plate disperses the water. It fills up very slowly. So this has been some aquascaping tips and tricks from Fish Addicts, and we'll see you tomorrow.